24-year-old Marine veteran Daniel Penny is now out on $100,000 bond after being charged with second-degree manslaughter in the subway chokehold death of Jordan Neely.
But what exactly happened, and what should we expect going forward? Let's go off the wall to learn more. First, let's start with Daniel Penny. As we mentioned, he's facing second-degree manslaughter charges in that death in the subway. You've heard it time and time again, 24-year-old Marine. He was a 300 series in MOS, meaning he was a rifleman. He was an infantryman in the Marine, deployed to the Mediterranean with a Marine Expeditionary Unit for 4 years, got out as an E5, a sergeant, honorable discharge. So as a rifleman, that means he was part of a combat unit.
Second-degree charges, by the way, point us toward would a reasonable person presume that he acted recklessly or with indifference to Jordan Neely's life. As you point out, he lived in Queens. He's from Long Island. I think this is actually an important detail, Pete, as we talked about throughout the morning. Yeah. It probably means, like any New Yorker, he's had a lot of these interactions on the subway, and my presumption would be that if he felt there was some need to intervene with Jordan Neely and what was perhaps about to take place on the train that day, it would have gone above and beyond the normal experiences of what a New Yorker experiences on the subway. I think that's a really important point. If
you're familiar with that ecosystem, then you can handle small things that you just brush aside.
It's still white knuckle often. It's still often like, oh, is this going to explode into violence?
As we mentioned, discharged in 2021. That haircut he's got right now wouldn't cut it back in the day. So he's been out for a couple of years at this point.
Now, who is Jordan Neely? Jordan Neely is a man. I believe he was in his 30s. He was in his 30s.
I think so.
And his mother, he's 30 years old, yes. His mother died when he was 14. She was strangled by her boyfriend. It's said by his family this was a seminal moment in Jordan Neely's life where he then began, Pete, to spin out of control.
Yeah, quickly. He had 42 prior arrests between 2013 and 2021. So the media's making a lot about he was a subway performer and Michael Jackson impersonator, but it was a cycle of violence and mental health problems, including cold cocking and sucker punching people on the subway. 2 at 1 month apart, breaking one victim's nose in 2019, punching a 64-year-old man in the face. He also was charged with attempted kidnapping of a 7-year-old girl, dragging her down the street and put in jail for 4 months. After that, he punched a 67-year-old woman in the face, breaking her nose.
Jordan Neely's attorney, which he has in death and apparently didn't have in life, Jordan Neely's attorney has pointed out there's no way that Daniel Penny would have known Neely's criminal history. Well, there's something else that Daniel Penny wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have known that Jordan Neely was a Michael Jackson impersonator. He wouldn't have known what he looked like when he was 20 years old. What he would have known was the violent, potentially volatile man on the subway making threats that day in the state and condition and visual appearance that he was in that day. That's what's relevant to this interaction.
He and all the other passengers, by the way, who gave him credit for the actions that he took, thanked him for stepping up when no one else would. But this is all after what actually happened on the subway. And we're going to play that 15-second video once and give you a sense of our take as well. Here's the video, a portion of the 3-minute video that we have.
You can see Penny has Neely in a chokehold. Several other passengers here at times step in to try to help. There's clearly something happened. We'll hear from witnesses here as to what occurred on this train that precipitated the intervention.
Again, that's an important aspect of it. There have to be a lot of other videos here. By the way, every Marine that goes through basic training and certainly infantry training goes through the Marine Corps Martial Arts program. So he'd have basic training here. Is that a chokehold? There's also something known as a sleeper hold. That looks like the rear naked chokehold. By the way, in the Army, we had a combatives program. That's the most secure hold you can have on someone. You effectively have them here. You got their legs below them. And when he let him go into a recovering position, we're told Jordan Neely was still breathing. So from the Marines' perspective, he's not trying to kill him. He's trying to subdue him. It'll be in a jury's hands to see whether or not he went too far at making a moment's notice call.
A few other bullet points of note. Witnesses say Neely was said to be shouting, acting erratically. The reports he said something to the effect of, "I'll take a bullet." Clearly was implicating that he is up for a moment of violence. The interaction took place for up to 15 minutes. We haven't seen the full 15-minute video. And 2 other riders helped restrain Neely. Several witnesses on the train that day, as you point out, thanked Daniel Penny for what he did.
If you want to just confront someone by punching them, you escalate the situation. If you come from behind with a sleeper hold or a rear naked, you're trying to subdue and stop the situation from happening.
Right.
And I think what you'll hear this Marine say is, no one's trying to kill anybody here. I'm trying to protect myself and the other people in a bad situation.
In the wake of this, you immediately saw protests in New York City where riders jumped down onto a subway track, stopped a car, held everyone else onto the train. You know, the one detail that has seemingly inspired this is the detail that we haven't mentioned here because it isn't pertinent to the case, and that's the detail of the two men's race.
Yeah.
The protests in the wake are about that one detail.
And that's the detail that Mayor Adams brought up later on after the protest. Mayor Adams at the beginning said, let's wait for all the information. Let's get the toxicology report of Jordan Neely, which we still don't have. Let's get all the videos and all the witness testimony. But after the protests, as often happens, Mayor Adams says, no, maybe this is a race situation. So what are the consequences now that he faces second-degree manslaughter charges? It's a lot for the action that he took.
Yeah, as we pointed out, he's been released on a $100,000 bond. If he is convicted of manslaughter in the second degree, he could face as many as 15 years in prison.
He can't leave New York State as of right now, so he's effectively a prisoner of the city and the state.
Surrendered his passport.
Surrendered his passport. He's got by the way, he has a Give, Send, Go fund. I just tweeted it. It's out there. It was at $100,000 just on Thursday. It's at $800,000 right now for his legal defense fund. So a lot of Americans stepping up and saying, I want to support this Marine who took courageous action, and now they're coming after him in the process.
All right, that's what we know so far when it comes to this case. Let's toss it over to Rachel now.
Yeah.
A little more.
I noticed it's on Give, Send, Go and not GoFundMe, which often deplatform people they don't agree with. So thank you, Pete. Thank you, Will. Great stuff.